Okay, we are streaming live here, and today I want to go over some of the trigger setup for the other levels and setting up the events so they work within the triggers when you walk through them. So, right here we have our character Sully's at the very beginning level instance here, and as in the first levels, we have some triggers doing things throughout the process that allow you to progress in the levels themselves. So here we have another one right here that is getting set up, and it's basically has a two collider system. The front one is set up as a trigger. You can see it's a small one here, and then the one behind it is actually a collider that is just stopping you from moving forward. And so what we want to do is we want to actually use the FSM to take this collider and then make it do some kind of event feedback and text. So this isn't organized as the first one. I copied and pasted a bunch of stuff in. So I'm thinking that we have to make sure that we keep it uniform throughout the different build levels. Otherwise, we're going to mix it up and do it different ways, and it's not good. So here's the trigger asset here, and it has an FSM that I just copied in, and it keeps the variables connected to the listener here, the trigger event, and then within that we can play the same audio, and then we can trade out. I've actually already traded out the text, but it's the same thing here. And then we can, when you approach it, it will propagate this, and then we can figure out a way to destroy it. I'm thinking the best way to do it is to actually put some stuff back here, and then as you move forward, you can create some kind of tool or some kind of something that you can use to activate to build this back up. And we'll put some like cool animation, like building animation in or something there. So what I want to do is I want to see if I have any tools. I already have the trigger set up, I'll show you in a second, but I want to see if I actually have any 3D tools here, because I know we have some stuff here. So what is this? So a hammer. This would actually be exactly the kind of thing we're looking for. So I don't think I've actually created a... The problem with this is that I don't have any equipable stuff yet set up with this, so it's just going to be an item that you click on and use for now. But all in all, it seems to be working out. So before we go into doing the trigger, what I actually want to do is I want to get out of this level and I want to set up this item somewhere else in a different level real quick so I don't screw stuff up and put it in the right place. So I'll go into my inventory manager here, and the big thing, we have to make sure this is scaled appropriately. So what I like to do is I like to go into a setup level here, and let me see what we got here. Inventory, and then I should have a setup right here. We also have a thumb generator, which will also be important. So I'll just save this out, and we'll just go to the thumb generator, see if we can do both there. Okay, so you can see there's nothing really here. Oh, I do have a dynamite egg. I forgot I was making that. So this is just where we set up new items in the inventory thumb generator or the setup. I mean, we'll just open this up and see what this one looks like real quick. And that's just so we don't screw up any controls within the other one. So yeah, this is clearly just a setup scene, because there's no... the other one, you actually can create thumbs when you play the game. So we'll use this one because we can also use this to scale. And what I'll just do is, again, I'll search for the hammer that we had there. And actually, no, what I want to do is I do want to make sure that it is scaled like it needs to be. So I'll just bring in something I know is about right. Like we have our... what have we been using a lot? Like a coconut, you'll know, like the size of it. These I know aren't scaled right. They're all messed up in the second level. Huge. Okay, so I'm just trying to find something that's relatively right size. So I can just go in here, drop it in. I don't know if that's the right size, but it's a lot, looks like it's a lot smaller than the other ones, so go here, and I can just add hammer one. And we'll see how this, alright, so this actually probably is pretty big then, because I think the size of, this was the right size according to Sully, so we'll make it a little bit bigger. And I guess this is misleading because this level isn't scaled, it's just for thumbnails, so that's probably why these aren't scaling appropriately. But I can just zoom in more if I wanted to. But all I'm doing here is I'm just going to set up, I want to separate the prefabs from the original place they came from to a prefab within the game itself. So with inventory, mesh models, and then here in equipables, which, you know, we don't have anything necessarily equipable yet per se, but we'll just say hammer. We'll just call this hammer. Keep it very generic for now. Zoom in, and actually I guess I could use this to scale what it should look like. So that actually looks like it's a decent size. That might be a little bit big, but again, because we're not actually equipping this right now, we can just leave it as is. So maybe I'll put it like that. Okay, so then I'll drop this in here, and then we'll create an original prefab, and then so now we'll make an item out of this one. And again, we do that so that it makes an item from the copied prefab, not from the one from the original area where this came from. And then I guess the other thing I'd want to do is make sure this is zeroed out, but I don't. It is. Okay, so I like these numbers pretty clean here. Okay, so I'll create an item now. And this is going to be it's a consumable, but it's not like something that, it's just usable, which I'm using consumable. I'm sure there's a better way to do it when you click on it. So then here I can go hammer, and we know it's this one, A, because it has a plus there, so I can match it up. And you can also look the path there. So then we'll add this. Okay. So now that we have the item created, we'll just go ahead and I'll just first get some stuff in there to make sure it, and something happens where it doesn't actually put all the info in. So what I usually do is just add the name so I know where it is right here, and then I'll go into the inventory categories item and look for where the item is created, and it should be on the bottom, or actually no, it's in alphabetical order here. So then if you go to H, there should be a hammer now, and if I click on this I can add other stuff in here, because for some reason it doesn't always work within the window, and this must be some kind of error where it syncs up. So then I can add the different aspects of what it is, and we can just say it's a quest item here. I know it's a consumable product, but it's a quest item. So then now that that's there, we don't want to make it droppable or sellable or storable. We want it just to be in the special one. And I forget how I have to tag it, but I can look at the other ones once we figure this out, because I'll put it in a special place here. So now that we have an item there, we can go ahead and just do what we ever want with this one, because it's not the item we've created. And then the reason we want to do this is we can actually get a nice thumb screenshot here and get a good perspective on the item using the lighting within the game, which is perfect. Okay, so doesn't look too bad, although I'm wondering why it's not spinning the way I want it to. So I always like to put a cool 3D perspective on it. So pops out. You know, it's a 3D item. Okay, and then so when I play this, it's going to, the script on this is going to generate something, and I'll just say this is going to be called, it's going to be called item thumb. I'm just making sure I organize this right, and then frames to capture, we can just say 1, frame rate 1, and you could, if this was animated, you can do a whole bunch of things with it. Well, you see why I'm doing it this way in a second. So now that that's there, I can just play this. Okay, and then so when it's done, you're going to see a white background. If it works. So it's playing. Alright, so now it's done, and I'll pause it. So that's how you know it's done running the script. And you can just cancel this out, and you won't get any feedback other than the white background. So you just have to go check. But what's dangerous about this is that this actually builds it outside of the project. So if you screw this up, or if you delete something within around here, you can really mess stuff up. So all our stuff sits within assets, so it creates this folder. And if you were to run that again, it would create the same one with the same name with an underscore number. But then here you can see we actually have our hammer transparent. So then I will then borrow, I'm going to say borrow, I'm going to just take a size here. So I'll go inventory, item thumbs, and I'll just take any one of these PNGs we have. It doesn't really matter because we're just using it. And I'll just open it with Photoshop. So make sure you don't save over the one you're opening. Okay, so now that we have that open right here, I'll just open this crab claw. We can use this to make a new one. And so let's make sure I get out of all this. Let's move this stuff over. Okay, so now we have our crab claw here, and I can carefully go back to where I know I can find that item, and I can just drop this in here. And the reason why I like to manually do this is I like to size it appropriately, because this is the thumb, this is the essentially the item you're going to click on within the inventory. So you want it to look good, you want it to be scaled appropriately. It does a better, does a better job than if the game just takes a perspective one. Okay, then you can also add some lighting and different tones to it to clean it up. You can do whatever you want in here. But just note that this will be the final button and image. It's transparent. So it looks pretty good. So then what I can just do is say file save as, and then that will also, the reason why that also helps us is that it will save it within the in here. So the only thing you're going to make sure you do, which is super important, is instead of the name here, so it doesn't overwrite it, just type in the new name, hammer, with a PNG, and save it. Say OK. So that won't mess up our claw there, but it will also create a new one. So then in here, it's gonna find the new item you created. This is kind of the back end way of importing stuff. The front end way would be actually using Unity, but then you can also just drop it in, and then Unity checks for new stuff and then adds it in. So the only other thing you have to do, which you have to make sure you do or it won't work, is if you go into our inventory again, you go in our item thumbs, and you're gonna find wherever it's named in order that it's not a sprite. So it's going to be the one that looks like this. It's white because for some reason it just doesn't know the transparent if it's not a sprite, 2D sprite. So then I just go here, and also one thing I've been have to do. These are 256 max size, and so you got to make sure that you crunch it down to match, and that's just so we can save some space, especially for every one that we load. So 256, apply, and now you can see it's an actual thumb. If I zoom in right there, you can see there's our Oasis hammer with a transparent background. So that's how you make a thumb image button for the item along with the item. So the reason we did that is now we have to go back into here, items, and this is not the thumb, this is the item that we've created, right? So that's also going to be in alphabetical order here, and we can find the H, there it is, and then we can click on this, which is going to open up our parameters for the item itself, and then down here we can add the sprite we just created, which is really the whole reason we did all that, was just to have a nice clean image we can reference every item. Okay, so then here, let's type in hammer, and okay, and then so you can see we have our Oasis hammer thumb here, and I can just double click that, and we should be good to go. So now when I have to check to make sure what tag I put on this item for this to be filtered into the special folder, but when you pick this up or when you create this item and you click on it, it will shoot an FSM event which can build the bridge. So that's the reason for all these steps. So I actually can just, now that I have that done there and everything's in place for the most part, we can test this. So we'll just, this is where it gets a little bit unorganized, I should say, because it's not necessarily in the inventory anymore, but in the where is it? It's going to be in the quest folder here. I started putting in items that are special, right? And then so the tag is an NPC tag. I don't know if that's the tag it needs. No, it's not the tag. I don't know why that would be NPC tag. I forget. Oh, you know what it is? It does it by the category it is. That's right. So in our actual game view, which I'll go back into in a second, it will filter this out based off the category it represents. So because this is a quest category, it will just filter that. So I think it's already set up for us. The only thing I want to do is I want to make sure I set up a corresponding special item for the Sky Island here, like we do, separate it from the regular batch. And it is a little redundant, but it will help us not screw up stuff that's working in the end. Okay, and then I can even just fix this one so it matches here. All right. And what I'll usually do is I'll just go in here, I'll click this open, it'll open up the prefab we have, and I can just drag that into this, and I'll make a new prep. I've never done it this way, I think. Let's just try it, see what happens. I've always seen just the other way. But I think that actually does what we want. The big thing is, for this to work, when you pick it up, it has to be this category right here, quest 1, and that's just how it knows to filter out where it sits in the inventory system. So now that we have that in place, I can go ahead and just save this out as is, and I will go back to build. And I'll go back to our Sky Island level. And I guess I'll save that again. And we'll see if this works. The item itself, I don't think you'll actually pick it up. I mean, maybe you could try to find it. But the point is that you want this to be the completed item that you find to actually do something. Okay, so I'll zoom over to where this is. And I'm trying to get this collab working, see if this is working for us. And it gets stuck on batch 5 of 6, which I don't understand why it does that. I want collaborate to work, but it doesn't always work like it needed to. Okay. Category, items. Oh wait, no, that's wrong. Quest. I should really call this quest items. But for now, it is what it is until we put more stuff in here. So we might put actually quest text and other reference stuff. Okay, so then now I can just see if this would work. We want to be able to pick it up, and we want it to be able to go in the it also has a level detail on it, which is going to make it not optimized. We have to fix that stuff. But we'll just remove our rigid here so it floats in the air. And then our box collider and sphere collider, they're a little big, so we'll bring them down to 0.5, 0.5. Sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it doesn't. Alright, and then so I find that I have to do the half size a lot. Okay, so now we have our hammer here, and we'll see if Sully can pick it up and then click it, and it does something. So the key thing we want to check, which we won't see any reaction, is there's nothing set up, but we want to see if it fires off the FSM on the inventory when we click it. So computer's being pretty slow right now. Okay. Okay. Fix that. Okay, so we can hover over it. You can see the hammer works. I don't like how the yellow text shows up if it's not. I wish that wouldn't show up. I wish I can disable that. Otherwise, you can just drop it or store it, which could screw up the gameplay. But you can definitely pick it up. It shows the thumb there, so that's working, which is good. We want that to happen with all our items, and you can see it goes into the special, which is also what we want. So the other thing we got to check before we click on it is we want to make sure in our main canvas or special window where that is sitting. So when we click it, we want to see if this launches this series of events, and if it does, then it's going to work, and we can set up whatever we want to it. And if it doesn't, we got to figure out why not. So I click it, double click. Alright, good. Yeah, so it went to burn wall, and now it's firing off this FSM, and you can see it removed the item in our inventory there. So that's part of our trigger system. Well, it's not really part of the trigger, it's part of the event system that uses the trigger and the item there. So now that we have this item in front of us, we want to either make it be able to create it by finding stuff, or we want to just be able to acquire it and use it at some point. Like maybe it can be handed out in this, but I like the idea of just finding materials and using the system itself more. So what I'll do here is there's nothing really over here, everything's over in this one. So I'm gonna take some of the stuff over here, move it over here. I don't want to add any more stuff to the scene because I don't want the scene to just be bogged down with more stuff and be slow. So I'll just spread it out more. So scene object, sky, main, and collectibles. We have some stuff here, and then I know I have a wood crate right here. And this would actually be a possible way that you can craft it, right? That seems to be the only wood thing, so maybe we'll just take these few items. Alright, so we'll take the gold, and we'll take the wood crate, and we'll move it over here. And we also should make find like put some fire somewhere where you can craft it. Alright, so I might actually just put the hammer on top of this, to be honest, though. And then when you collect this and break it up, it could give you wood. Otherwise, I have to set up a bunch of crafting blueprints, which I'm trying to avoid extra stuff here. So maybe we'll just do that. I do want to make it so you can find stuff though. Alright, so, oops. So take these 2 items and we'll put them, nestle them somewhere, like not necessarily obvious, but pretty much hinting at this is what you need. Right here. Tuck it in just right. Okay. So what else do we have here we can add? We can also have this pouch, which to be honest is hidden, so that's probably not doing us any good where it was anyways. And we'll move that over here somewhere. Fill out this area so you can explore a little bit and find stuff. Maybe we'll put this pouch right here. And you could probably add a lot more items. I just am trying to keep it straightforward for now since we have. Okay, and these passion fruit I know are very large in this level for some reason. I'm going to scale those down a little bit. I don't know where the other ones are, but I know they were really big. Yeah, so one's not even viewable right here. So that's one passion. This one will move over here. Alright, we'll just kind of have it maybe hanging out on that. Maybe it says fell over here, something's on the ground. Now how we place this stuff later can be more strategic. Just trying to fill out the environment with some fun stuff. Okay, and let's see where this third one is real quick. This one's floating in the middle of nowhere, so that's definitely another thing we can add somewhere. Zoom in real quick. And then like a little cheat I do is I just child it and then I can zero it out and then I can pull it back out. And that will just zero it out to where the other one is. You can see they're different sizes. Okay. And then we got a lot of earth essence here. I don't know if they're in the good spots. Yeah, everything has to be actually moved, all these items, now I think about it. And this has to be re-imported for every level, so do that. Okay. So I'm not going to worry about the items, I'm going to do that next. I'm not really going to film that. I want to focus on mostly the bridge and the event stuff that happens, because the items can be just moved last second. And it's pretty easy, you don't need to see how that works. I want to focus on most of the more challenging things here. So we know that the bridge is out because when we approach it we get this. If I close all this up and keep myself organized here, in events we know that if you go over it, this is the text set A. I'm just gonna call this bridge broken, right? And then what we'll do is we'll just copy this, because this one when you play it, that's gonna say broken path. That's when you hit the trigger the first time, and then we need something for when it's fixed. Right? So fixed. Okay. Maybe I'll just make it simple here. So now this one we can change it up. So I'll just turn it on real quick and I'll say, okay, fixed bridge. Okay, and then here in the summary we can just say something about that. Be like, your carpenter's skills have paid off. The bridge is now walkable. Alright, and I like to try to keep it on 2 lines, so I'll usually use this tool and I'll Oops, so still thinks I'm typing. So you gotta make sure you get out of this and you click on the text here, and then you zoom in, and then you can tweak it a little bit like that. And it doesn't have to be perfect, a little space there. That looks good. So this is gonna get launched when you click the hammer. Usually you do a broken one with a trigger and then an item one with a fix. At least two for each item that involves this kind of this scenario. And I gotta make sure I figure out where. And the only thing is when you forget where you put stuff. So the bridge trigger. This is why the hashtags actually work well. I can just hashtag, and then stuff that's like somewhat significant I use a lot, I can just find that way, and so it was hidden down there. Okay, so here's where it's gonna do its stuff, right? It's saying it's broken, and looks like I've disabled that portion. Forget what this was for, but we're not using it. So that still is working correctly. And what we have to do now is we have to set up the FSM on the inventory item. Okay, so in main canvas, special window, you can see from the other level the things that are not working, or the things that need to be replaced. So this is where we activated the fire. So instead of the fire, we're going to do some kind of build animation there, which will be fun to look for. So I'll zoom over at the bridge trigger again, so I can have the area in front of me. And again, if you minimize these, you don't see those, and you can just do that, and that's what the actual object looks like, but we disable that. Okay, and also just go into this mode. And I will look into our master assets here. I want to continue uploading this, so I might actually restart just to see if that fixes it. I want to get this to a green check. So let me see where we are in terms of recording time here. Okay, I don't know where my YouTube went. My YouTube. Okay, so we've been recording for about a half an hour, so I'm going to stop real quick and I'll come back in a second.